For today's tabletop testing, we're going to be looking at Charizard Pidgeot with the new inclusion of Dusknoir from Shrouded Fable, as well as the new Fezandipiti EX, so we are looking towards the world's metagame here. Dusclops and Dusknoir both share a Cursed Bomb ability. The Dusclops, when it KOs itself, puts 5 counters on one of your opponent's Pokemon, whereas the Dusknoir puts 13 counters on one of your opponent's Pokemon. The reason why these are included in the deck list, of course, is because it is helping us push our Burning Darkness attack. There are some situations where Dusknoir can do a 1-for-1 effect, but in doing so, you ramp your Burning Darkness into KO range, or you open up the lines for Countercatcher or Roxanne to disrupt the opponent. Whereas the Fezandipiti is a consistency upgrade to the Bibarel previously seen in the deck. It is another 2-prize Pokemon coming onto the board, but it has such a fantastic ability to top us up on cards, to open up that quick search more often, to allow us to not just find one piece, but combinations of cards throughout the game. I've tried to keep to a fairly straightforward baseline with high counts of ball search cards and supporters right now, but this list is from a few weeks back, so there are plenty of tech inclusions that I'm considering, and I'm going to discuss those at the end of the video. If you're looking for PTCG live codes, make sure you check out the Potown store. You can get a 5% discount on your orders using that code, OmniPoke. So we're getting into this first game. I'm playing Charizard and I'm on the left. Jack is playing Dragapult Pidgeot with its own Dusknoir package. As you can see, Jack led with the Duskull. A little bit awkward that I started with the Radiant Charizard, definitely one of our weaker ones. And Jack is also getting to go first here and has a Nest Ball to kick us off. No surprises, he's going to pick up a Dreepy with this after a quick search through his deck. Looks like he's also really debating this Ultra Ball. He's going to discard a Psychic Energy as well as a Pidgeot EX here. He does have Nightly Stretcher in hand, so can get early value with that, with the double discard in this way. I wonder if he'll go Rotom here or just a Pidgey. It is going to be just a Pidgey coming onto the bench. So he doesn't have many cards in hand, but he is holding on to the way to get Pidgeot back, I suppose. So not too bad for him, all things considered. Actually, he's going to change up the choice of the energy with the rescue board instead, just so he can get the turn attachment in. It's much more threatening if he does the attachment this way, so that's why he changed up the Ultra Ball there. As we pass things over to me, I have the Buddy Buddy Poffin. I'm going to grab Charmander as well as Pidgey. Pretty standard stuff on my end as well. Looks like I also have an Ultra Ball to play here. And that's also being debated. I'm going to first look through the deck a little bit more. We eventually discard a Fire Energy as well as a Boss's Orders. And we're just going to grab a Rotom V. We're going to swing a Fire Energy onto the Charmander, as well as the Forest Seal Stone onto Rotom, and we're just going to end on that instant charge for 3 cards here. Jack's going to immediately evolve into Dracloak, so I'm happy to see no Candy shenanigans, but it does allow him to find Arven now, which is going to unlock his hand quite a lot, because that's rare Candy, and as we know, with Nightly Stretcher, he can recover the Pidgeot EX and open up Quick Search for himself. Also looks like there might be Forest Seal Stone coming into the hand. No, going to be Defiance Band instead. And we are going to see the Nightly Stretcher get Pidgeot back immediately for the Candy play. So he can once again go back into his deck and find any other card here. If he's having a setup turn by the looks of things, he might just go Buddy Buddy Poffin here. That's exactly what we see, and it's double Dreepy coming into play. And he's just going to pass things over to us. We have our own Candy Pidgeot. The retreat cost of this Radiant Charizard is quite frustrating, but I do have the Professor Churro, so I can pick up the Charizard, which is really nice. And then we're going to quick search. I also have the Forest, so that's being flipped as well. So I can go Candyzard and initiate a prize race here if I really want to. And looks like that's what we're going to go for. We're going to throw energy onto 2 attackers here. Pidgeot as well as the Charizard. It's quite reasonable for me to attack with Pidgeot here. I think it plays better into the Devo play, but I will retreat and just take the KO. It's a bit of a close one, honestly. I think, looking back, if I'm playing around Devo a little bit better, I should go the other way round, because it means Jack can just swing this turn with a Dragapult, and then the Devo player's already lined up. Whereas if I attack with the Pidgeot, even if Dragapult sprinkles 6 onto my Charmander, the Devo would still be really painful, but it wouldn't take 2 prizes with that play. So a minor thing there. Probably should have just swung with a Pidgeot, to be honest with you. As we do go into Jack's turn, he's had a Recon Directive, also has a Quick Search now. I think I already saw a Dragapult EX in hand, so he shouldn't have too much difficulty getting a response attack in here. Beyond that, it's worth looking towards getting more Drakloak in the mix, possibly. It's going to be Arven for the Earthen Vessel and Forest Seal Stone. And Vessel is going to give him the fire energy he requires. He's just going to discard a Buddy Buddy Poffin. Looks like he has Ultra Ball as well, so that Drakloak could also be coming online on the bench. Looks like he'd have to sacrifice Defiance Band. He is going to make that choice, and I think it's a wise one. So you're not tethered to Candy. I think this deck really doesn't like having to be so tied to Rare Candy, because you also need Pidgeot to find Neo Upper Energy so often. So that's something to bear in mind. Maybe not in this matchup, but just a general thing to remember about this archetype. At this point, though, he can just shove a Fire Energy to the active, and he is going to put 6 onto the Pidgeot. Obvious choice, really, because it does open up Devo for him next turn. Or just the option to maybe get some extra ping damage involved later, as we are going to see the INO from me, just bouncing back to see 5 fresh cards. Jack probably welcomes it, honestly, because his hand size was kind of low, but he had Drakloak and Pidgeot anyway on board, and I think I was just lacking basics. We are going to Nest Ball Charmander, and then we're going to Quick Search. Was that the Unfair Stamp that I took to the hand? Couldn't quite see what I was taking here. Not sure if it's an immediate card or not. Can't think my turn's going to be too strong, though. I'm probably just swinging into this Dragapult. What was it? Was it Pheasantipity for next turn, possibly? Something like that. But either way, we're just going to swing. And we're back up to Jack, who has a couple nice turns laid out for him. He can search Radiant Alakazam and Gust this turn. Alakazam's actually in hand. Yeah, so he could Quick Search for Gust. Or Arven can do it as well with Countercatcher. So if he uses Alakazam to take 2 off the Charizard, Jack can finish off the Pidgeot with a Gusting play and still spread more counters this turn. Or he could go for a Devo line with the Arven. Not sure if it's in the deck, but it's not being tutored right now. A Devo line would also take 2 prizes, obviously. But this does get more damage spread across the board. As we do see the Quick Search. I think that was just a Rare Candy, was it? Yeah, just holding on to a Rare Candy. Gonna Ultra Ball away some more Buddy Buddy Poffins. That's really helpful. He's gonna get a second Dragapult EX established this turn. Which means he gets to keep his Recon Directive available. We are going to see Countercatcher bring up the Pidgeot. As expected, the Painful Spoon is going to bring the Pidgeot down to 200 damage. And Jack is just going to place the 6 spare onto the new Charmander. And goes ahead in prizes. And in doing so, really, obviously threatens our engine quite substantially. And I have a lot of damage across this board. And I'm on odd prizes. He looks like he's in a far better position right now. That was the Pheasantipity that I scouted with the Pidgeots. We're going to see 3 cards with the Take Advantage ability. And we're going to Arven. Arven gets a Super Rod. I know we have a few fire energy in the discard, yet there's 3 coming back into the deck. And there's the Defiance Band. Looks like I just missed off the Fezandipiti. I think I was looking for a candy piece. I could see Charizard, but I couldn't Candy Zard from the Arven because I had too many fire energy in the discard pile. So possibly just going overzealous by attaching to Pidgeot and not actually attacking with it was the downfall here. Because possibly if I could have just guaranteed that Candy Zard pre-stamp, I'd have been in a better spot. Because now I really need to hit Candy off this stamp. Yeah, looking back, I think maybe swinging those energy onto the Pidgeot and then not attacking with it was probably the worst thing I could have done. If I attacked with a Pidgeot, even that would have been better. Because the damage would be a little bit more favourable for me across this board. But as it happens, we do miss Candy Zard, so we are just going to go down to 3 prize cards, and I think Jack's in a real commanding spot here. As long as he hasn't prized both Mela and the Neo Upper, he should have no problem wiping out both Charmander and Charizard this turn. And then even with Radzard responding, like in the best case scenario, onto the Pidgeot or something, he would just still have this Dragapult untouched. So I would have to, like, gust up Pidgeot with an Iono and a Sinnoh or something like that, so that Jack couldn't have access to the Neo Upper. Yeah, that would kind of be the best thing I could do, and then I would just fall prey to like a vacuum anyway and still lose. Jack's also just going to Iono here as well to make things even worse for me. Actually drew into the Neo Upper, so that's nice. Gonna see Quick Search. Oh, what a nice feeling. Quick searching for the forest so you can hold a board of double quick search essentially next turn. That is really good, like, stamp proofing. We are going to see the 2 taken off the active because it's free damage for him. There's the Neo Upper. There's the Forest Seal Stone. What a crazy board state Jack's developed this turn. Really strong stuff. He can take out all of my threats. Goes down to 1 prize. And my best case scenario here is, like I said, Fezandipiti maybe would get me... Yeah, it looks like I do scoop it up there. I think my best case scenario is like Fezandipiti, hope that I can draw into Sinnoh, and then have like a gust play. If I can KO Jack's Pidgeots, possibly. Oh no, because he can always find the bounce with a Forest Seal Stone. Yeah, it looks like just checkmate from that spot, even if I had the best case scenario, which was my Radzard with Defiance Band KOing his Pidgeots. Whilst also having a Temple to block this Neo Upper. I think my win condition then becomes that Jack's either discarded or has prized his like Vacuum or Stadium Bounce. That would be the only slither of hope I had there looking back. I maybe scooped a little bit too early, but I think when you just see a board as terrible as mine and the demoralizing double quick search essentially with the forest unflipped, I looked in a terrible spot. And I think this game probably came down to me greeding more energy out the deck and not utilizing that Pidgeot when I could have just kept the energy around for a guaranteed candy play later. Next up then, I'm still playing Charizard, I'm still on the left, and Jack's still on the right, and he is playing Gardevoir this time around. I start with the Duskull, whereas Jack starts with Munkidori, and Jack's going to be going first here. He has Earthen Vessel, at the very least, and has Ultra Ball in hand. Not sure how much other Ball Search he has, actually, so it could be a pretty awkward start for him. Would just be just the 1 Ralts, which is never that ideal. Threw away the Bravery Charm as well. It is a decent card in the matchup, but I think it might just be how awkward his opener is here. More than anything. I see Iono. I see... Is that TM Evo in hand as well? And Rod. Looks like he's going to hold the hand so that he can Iono next turn, probably. Maybe if he just attaches Evo next turn. That's the strat before using Iono. And then hoping you just find more search cards. Yep, it's just going to be a pass over to me. I draw the Arven, which actually really helps this handout. As always, it's going to unlock all sorts here. And in this case, it's going to be the Buddy Buddy Poffin for some basics. And it's also going to be Forest Seal Stone, which probably means I have Ultra Ball or Nest in hand. So I can take advantage of the Rotom that I'm already looking at. Yep, it's going to be Ultra, getting rid of Defiance and Radzard. We really don't need Defiance in this matchup because we are hitting a squillion damage into the EXs that Jack has, and the other stuff is really low hit points. The Radiant Charizard is obviously something we can recover pretty happily. So all things considered, this is a really good start for me. I can even attach to the Duskull, just get things out of my hand in case I am going to get disrupted. And then we're just going to rotate him up for 3 cards. Pass over to Jack. He does evolve into Kirlia, then has TM Evo just slammed down, hoping that he can find some Buddy Poffin or just some raw Rolts here from the INO. I saw Bull Surge. Oh, I didn't even hit Energy either. That's pretty rough. We do still have the Refinement at least. Gets rid of a Monkey Dory. Did see a Rolts, but it looks like he's just whiffed on Energy right now. That's going to be a problem. Not getting value from your TM Evo is a real shame here. Not seeing any Buddy Poffin is rough. Not sure if he has Artisan, but that would also be really handy here. And the problem with modern Guardies is that they often don't play Rare Candy, and this list certainly doesn't. So if I have a crazy turn, I could target down that Kirlia, either with Candy Dusknoir or with Boss's Orders next turn. Yeah, Jax is holding onto a bunch of tools, so it's going to have to pass things over to us. There's a lot of ways that I could punt it. Oh, wow. I straight away have Candy Pidgeot, and that means I have Forest and Pidgeot available. Yeah, I think I'm holding on to Boss. I think I just have an easy Boss on Kirlia here. I'm going to Ultra Ball away Pheasantipede and the Lost Vacuum. And then we can flip the Forest. Grabbing Boss, then we're going to Quick Search. It's probably going to be the Rare Candy, I'd imagine. There's Boss's Orders. Candyzard. Yeah, very dangerous. It means I have a free turn, essentially. I'm debating powering up the Pidgeot again. And this time I think it's much more reasonable, knowing that Jack won't attack into me, to just go Pidgeot here to swing with. We are just going to take that prize. Jack goes into Fluttermane. Has Ultra Ball, so can get some more Kirlia draw, but the hand is still not really cooperating. TM Evo is discarded as well as Counter Catcher. And we do see that Kirlia. It's going to be a big refinement for 2 here. It was his other Counter Catcher and Devo in hand. That's a horrible choice. Gets rid of Devo. Does find Poffin and Iono, though. I'm not sure if there's the extra Rolts in the deck, but he'll have a look at the very least. Drifloon possibly could bring out. No, just going to shuffle up and then see a fresh 6 at the very least. Well, that's where all his energy was. Don't see any other Kirlia again here. So again, he's in danger of just having his Kirlia taken out next turn. He's just going to attach and pass. I'm immediately bossing the Kirlia, and that unlocks the Fluttermane as well, so I can Quick Search. Yeah, very, very strong. Now I'm going to even prize cards. Jack has a huge issue where he's going to have to start using rods to recover these Rolts and Kirlia. I think he's lost both Evo as well, so it was another turn off. Attacking again next turn in the best case scenario. And I've just targeted his draw once again. So this has just been a real roller coaster. I'm getting pretty far ahead now, establishing the Charizard, whilst taking that Kirlia out once again. For at least Jack does pick up another INO. There is Super Rod in hand as well, so he can start getting back some of the Kirlia line. There's plenty of them in the bin now. It's going to go double Kirlia and Rolts. And we're just going to see the Arven for the guarantee here. No, we're just going to concede. Yeah, with that second Evo discarded already, he really just didn't have any other solid play there, to be honest with you. He could Iono and hope that there's another Kirlia coming from those top 6 cards, I suppose. and just hope to re-establish more roles. And to be fair, there was still a good amount of ball search there, but he is playing from quite far behind at that stage. I'd be going down to 3, and then at any point, potential final gusting effect on a God of War EX would be a huge problem. I suppose the only issue is I did spend double boss early, so maybe there was a chance for him to have some single prizes weaved in. But again, he'd lost a lot of resources, like with no Devo left, with no Bravery Charm left, he didn't have many great options to just deal with the Charizard over a quick period of time, and I was really running the clock down on him just with a prize every turn, so a reasonable scoop, I think, there. And I'm going to be changing things up for the final game. This time, Jack is going to be on Charizard on the right, and I'm playing Lugia on the left. And I start with a Lugia, Jack starts with that Duskull. Looks like I do have some Ultra Ball. I think I also have Carmine in the hand, so it's possible that I could discard an early Archeops by the looks of things. There's quite a few energy in the hand as well, though, which might be a small concern. But you got to do what you got to do when you have Lugia. You just can't say no to discarding Chops early, and that's what I think we're going to be seeing here. Going to see a Gift Energy attachment, and then it is going to be Carmine. So I did lose a couple energy in that exchange, but I did at least get rid of the Chops. Also in the process, I got a Minccino down, which is nice. And then looks like we're passing over to Jack. Jack has Buddy Buddy Poffin, so could at least get some basics established here. Do see Charmander and Pidgey, as expected. Also have Ultra Ball, can get rid of Radzard and Fire Energy. And it's going to be Rotom V as well, so he can top up on some cards at the end of his turn here. Get himself nicely established for turn 2 candies and such. The way he's shuffling up means he probably doesn't have a supporter in hand unless he's firing off an Iono. Might just end things. Or yeah, already has Candy in hand, so it's a really nice hand to just sit on with Rotom here. Get 3 more cards, get on the way. I start things off with a Great Ball, and that hits a Lugia V. Probably not what I'm after. I think V-Star's stronger, I think Chops is stronger. So it looks like it's just going to be Slam the Research. It's at least a second Archeops in the bin. But I still have to hit V-Star here, and I do hit Ultra Ball. Wow, I actually hit the final 2 Archeops to Ultra Ball away, so that's all 4 in the bin. And now we can summon 2 back. It's happening straight away. And we're going to begin using these Primal Turbos. DT Mist goes to the active. And I think I'm actually sat on a pretty interesting hand. I think I'm holding on to Energy Fish. And I actually have to assume that Jack, in the best case scenario, is taking out either Chops or Minccino next turn with the Charizard. That would be my expectation from Zard, honestly, if he's actually got a really strong hand. So I made an interesting line in attaching 2 to my Iron Hands here, and I think I'm going to manually attach 2 Minccino. So that, we can actually evolve as well and get an attachment in. And because I have such a specific hand, I want to dissuade him from just taking out the Cinccino, which is very often the right pick if I just put more than 1 energy on it. Whereas if I do it this way round, he's more likely to take out Archeops, which is obviously a very good play, but I can respond with a Gust play onto his Pidgeot. This is all assuming that he has the really strong turn. So it's a strange line, but it's actually one of the most defensive lines I could have made as Lugia, despite my turn being like really, really strong. I'm just trying to sort of set up multiple threats. Turns out Jack does have Candy Pidgeots, and looks like he had Lumineon in hand as well, but you might be debating a different play here. Going to see Quick Search instead. Obviously the fear factor of the Iron Hands might be coming into Jack's decision making here by not using the fish. It's going to be Arven for Countercatcher Forest. Yeah, but it's going to be Forest Hill Stone. Probably for the other pieces of the Candy Zard here. It's going to be possibly Poffin. Well, if you take out the... Yeah, it's going to be Candy. You can't go Poffin. But by taking out an Archeops, you know your Charizard's tanking. So this is a play you're allowed to make. We do see Candy Zard. I'm going to see the Infernal Rain. In a lot of these games, we have been loading up the Pidgeot as a backup. Maybe that's just testament to us whiffing on a lot of these Poffins and early search cards. Maybe it's an indication we need more search in the deck. Jack's then going to go down to what looks to be a 0-card hand with his Super Rod. And then he's just going to get one random prize card. So he's done a really powerful turn, but it has spent his entire hand to do so. And like I said, I actually made the split of energy the way I did because I am holding on to Energy Boss as my 2-card hand, I think. So I could take out this Pidgeot with my Cinccino and basically lock Jack into a random 2-card hand. So that's the hope. We are going to Turbo 2 onto the Cinccino. And yet there's the energy and the fish for boss. I played a ton of this matchup heading into the NAIC, and obviously the Lugia list has almost gone in a time capsule back to pre-NAIC because Cinccino is back in the deck, really to help out with this matchup. So I actually know the matchup really well, and Jack does just have to see his 2 cards, do nothing with them, and just swing into the Cinccino to deal with it. Obviously the biggest threat on the board at the time anyway, but he couldn't develop his board anymore, which is a pretty good sign for me. That now that I'm on 3 prize cards, I can punch this Zard and hope that I can dodge Boss or Countercatcher for a turn. And if that happens, I'm in really good shape, I think. I'm also going to evolve up into a Lugia V-Star. I think the final issue that I'm suffering from is that I think I've prized 2 more energy in the deck right now. So I need to keep loading up as many energy as I can. And it's going to be double turbo and jet to this Lugia. Now, I just need to cash in on as many Archeops as possible, and I think I'm just sacking off any more Cinccino at this point, based on my prizes, I think, and those early discards from my Carmine. So much so that I don't think Iron Hands is part of my plan anymore. My plan is now going to be the double Lugia, and maybe even this Blood Moon, to close out my last 3 prizes over 3 attacks. And this strat only works because I've hoped to avoid boss over a couple of turns because I've dealt with Jack's Pidgeot. We're going to bench the Blood Moon, and looks like we're just going to punch into the Charizard. Obviously, this Ultra Ball is also a nice hand thinner, so I can get more gift energy value. And yeah, we're just swinging into the big lizard. Let's see what Jack has. I think I see boss in his hand. So he can boss Fish or Blood Moon here. If he bosses Blood Moon and just takes the prizes, that's reasonable. But I don't think he can boss because I don't see any backup bench Pokemon. And, well, the Radiant Charizard's going back into the deck, as is a couple Fire Energy. Yeah, he probably just has to use Iono here, I would imagine, because he needs to get some basics developed and work on an engine. This is exactly what I was hoping for, with Jack going to a low hand size that he couldn't reasonably boss. And that's how it's panned out right now. He did find Buddy Buddy Poffin and found Unfair Stamp, which might be interesting for a future turn. Yeah, next turn he has Boss Unfair Stamp. That could be pretty handy. So it's definitely a Charmander coming out. I think he might have prized his other Pidgey by the looks of things, if he's only thinking about one Charmander. Not really a matchup where Dusknoir is that helpful. This is going to be double Charmander, yeah, which probably indicates Pidgey's prized or some candies are prized. Could Jack make any strange plays like retreat to Charmander here and just use Rotom maybe? Because 270 feels like a terrible thing to swing with. Yeah, he's just going to Rotom up. I think that's the smarter move. Maybe retreating was the absolute best here, but definitely hitting 270 makes no sense. So at least the Rotom play is being made here. I'm going to bounce back with an Iono, which might be frustrating that he didn't just chip in on damage. And I'm going to just keep thinning the hand of all these item cards. We're going to see a Minccino from this Great Ball. Which probably means I have more Ball Search to burn it. Nope, we're just going to swing again. And go down to 1. And we've got Gift Energy in the active as well, so quite a few hurdles for Jack to overcome here. Ooh, picks up the Pheasantipede, that's nice. You can also Nest Ball. The Charizard's interesting. Yeah, Radiant Charizard coming into the mix, possibly. Although getting the EX is still his priority this turn, no doubt. He can Pheasantipede for 3. Looks like he drew into Fish and Stamp. That's absolutely busted. So he can Fish for Arven now, I think, and go Candizard. And then he can Stamp me afterwards. That's absolutely crazy. Yep, Defiance Band as well. Why not? It's going to be a nice bounce back here. I think the only missing piece now is that he needs to draw into the Temple of Sinnoh. Because if he can deny my Gift Energy activation, he's in an amazing position. But if I do get the Gift Energy, I'm very likely to just have boss for game. I don't think I've played a single boss all game, actually. Have I? Oh, I've played 1. Yeah, I played 1 on the Pidgeot, right? And I think I might have burned Serena with the early Carmine. So I think there's maybe just 2 boss in the deck here. But I have done a decent job of thinning here. So I should be alright, and we do have the boss's orders for our final prize, so there you go. Even though we are playing that Temple of Sinnoh, the matchup can be a little bit awkward. Interestingly enough, we didn't use Dustoir in any of the games that we showcased either in this situation. However, there are going to be a ton more games that we do show of Charizard, where Dustoir is going to be the star of the show, so rest assured you are going to see plenty more Charizard action. This is just the beginning. Now let's get into some other tech options that Charizard could play. Like I said at the start of the video, I try to just have quite a simplistic, straightforward 60, and I think realistically there are some spaces that could be made in the supporter slots here. Very likely that Roxanne gets cut, or possibly down to 2 Iono, and the Lost Vacuum is also a contentious card right now that doesn't necessarily have to be in the list. There's also one change that I would immediately make, and that's actually dropping a Charmander to add in the Hisuian Heavy Ball. We're actually at 6 one-of basic Pokemon at this stage, and realistically they're all such powerful cards, especially the Pheasantipede inclusion, really tips over the edge the fact that I think Hisuian makes its slots worthwhile in Charizard going ahead. Speaking of one of basics, you could always think about the Cleffa coming back into the 60, giving yourself that Buddy Buddy Poffin searchable 1 prize option. It's pretty poor into some matchups, especially with so much damage counter placement going around. There's Dusclops that can 1-for-1 into it. There's obviously Monkey Dory and Dragapult in a number of archetypes, but it is the star of the show against the aggressive decks like Raging Bolt and Roaring Moon, those sorts of archetypes, so it can still be a justified inclusion. There are some more tool cards to consider. Bravery Charm's actually quite an interesting one. I'm personally a little bit terrified of the Dragapult and Regidrago action. It really does lock your bench down quite substantially, especially if there is going to be more Hawlucha and Radiant Alakazam in these lists. And as we saw, we did suffer in the Dragapult matchup, so a Bravery Charm could help us out a little bit there. It means that in the mid-game we can still bench Pidgey, maybe swing a Bravery Charm on at the same time. Or in early game situations when we've gone second against Regidrago V-Star, you can still bank that Bravery Charm onto a Pidgey, try and protect it for a turn in order to get into a Pidgeot EX. We could also think about TM Devolution in our own deck list. This has been an inclusion to improve your mirror match and possibly even into Chien-Pao and such before. And now that we have the inclusion of Dustoir, we can make much more sneaky plays by possibly doing a Curse Bomb in order to devolve multiple targets and take multiple prizes off the board in one go. Speaking of Devolution, we could also add Mist Energy into our own deck list to protect us a little bit more in that regard. It could also be handy into the Roaring Moon matchups. At the moment, my stadium of choice is still that Temple of Sinnoh. I still want to respect the Lugia, but that could come in other forms. If you want to have the Enhanced Hammer, which is Arven searchable, that's completely fine. And if you are going to cut the Temple of Sinnoh, I think Collapse Stadium is the other go-to choice for Charizard. The main logic I've had around not having the Collapsed anymore is that oftentimes you could use this alongside Barrel Engines to only have Charizard as your only multi-prizer in play at any one time. But now that we have the Pheasantipede, it's much more often that there are going to still be multiple EXs on board, unless you're making a combination line with Collapsed and Churro all in a turn. The other thing we do have to kind of respect is the option of Cornerstone Ogerpon in a number of archetypes. So we could see Cancelling Clone make its way into the deck list, or a copy of something like Gouging Fire EX. Gouging Fire, definitely not a fantastic card, but at least serves its purpose at dealing with Ogerpon. And this is really just that question mark as we lead up to the World Championships of how hyped Charizard is, and how many people are looking to respect that archetype, because it never feels good to commit a space to quite an awkward basic multi-prizer. Dusknoir wasn't all that convincing in the games we've just seen. It takes up 3 spaces in a deck, and of course, your priority is still going to be searching out Charmanders and Pidgeys, just to get going in the game. So if you weren't entirely impressed with its performance, like I said, there are going to be more games to show of Charizard where it does become much more clutch, but you could also think about building building some other engines. For example, there is the new Petrarunt EX binding Mochi combo, where Charizard can also ramp its damage output now in the form of a tool, which is much more easily searchable throughout the game with Arven. Petrarunt EX can also help you around the block of Snorlax, so that's another bonus to have in the deck. And as we know, Charizard can still look to go down the control path instead, possibly incorporating the likes of Eerie and that TM Devo that I mentioned earlier. Also, there's the Xerosix Machinations, a new very disruptive supporter card that you may look to include. Because you have Quick Search, you can find it at the right time, maybe combine it with some annoying Pokemon like Luxray V in your own list. We have seen hybrid Zard Pidgeots in the past, where you have just some of these basics like Regieleki and Luxray, possibly even looking to change your A-Spec back to the Hero's Cape. So there's still plenty to discuss. Like I said, the list I showed was just a baseline list to see how it functioned. This is going to be the baseline that you continually see throughout our battle videos. But this list was constructed a couple weeks ago, and I've thought a lot, as you can tell, by other inclusions that I'm considering. Let me know your thoughts on the video down below. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you tomorrow for another one. Cheers.